Immunity, if we look at it as a whole, immunity is protection. Immunity is protection. It's the protection of my body from everything around me that is different from my body. Well, for example, our skin is a form of protection. Yes, it's protection from everything around me. Protection also includes the mucous membranes. Tears are also a form of protection. And lysozyme, which is a toxic substance, an antiseptic found in our tears, protects the mucous membrane of the eye. So, immunity is protection, and it's a complex concept because it can include many different factors. But overall, it's all about protecting my body. This is what we call immunity. And it includes many, many cofactors. It involves protective membranes, the activity of leukocytes, and the action of substances like saliva or tears, lysozyme, and other factors. Immunity is multifaceted. It's not just a single concept. But most of the time, when we talk about immunity, everyone immediately thinks of something related to leukocytes. Yes, indeed, at the core of our immunity, our defense, are the white blood cells, the leukocytes. Leukos means white and cytos means cell. White cells, leukocytes. But even if we look at leukocytes, those leukocytes themselves are multifaceted. Among these leukocytes, there are the infantry leukocytes, called neutrophils, which fight when pus forms, when there's a direct invasion. If you cut yourself somewhere and the wound starts to fester, what you see as pus is actually neutrophils attacking the infection. There are also leukocytes that act like a nuclear bomb in our body. These are basophil leukocytes, which can release substances like histamine. It paralyzes blood vessels and causes a state of collapse. Or, for example, in the case of an allergy, it can trigger anaphylactic shock. There are also highly specialized leukocytes that destroy large microorganisms, such as fungi and parasites. I call them special forces. These are special units that exclusively kill some really huge, enemies in our body. And many of them are highly specialized leukocytes. They're called lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are divided into those that act like special forces, targeting and destroying specific enemies. They're called killers. And there are special leukocytes that are even the artillery of our body. And the artillery of our body is the B lymphocytes. They don't kill anyone directly. They stay in the bone marrow, but they produce antibodies. A leukocyte is a single cell. Thousands of antibodies can be produced. And then the antibodies bind to the enemy and later attack the enemy. It's the antibodies themselves that do this, and destroy it accordingly. So even the activity of leukocytes, of our immune system, is really multifaceted. It's not that simple. But still, if you break down our immune system, it can be divided into cellular immunity and humoral immunity. Cellular immunity is about these cells. These are killer leukocytes, infantry leukocytes, neutrophils that produce pus. And then there are those highly specialized leukocytes. That's cellular immunity, when the cells do the attacking. And there aren't that many cells. Well, there are billions, but compared to bacteria, there are far fewer of them. And that's why cellular immunity, the immunity carried out by the cells themselves, is very complex, very difficult, very slow, and not as effective at protecting our body. But then there's humoral immunity. Humor is a liquid. This is specifically the work of B lymphocytes. There are these B cells in our bone marrow. B cells don't. B lymphocytes. B lymphocytes don't attack anyone. They don't fight with anything. They're like factories for producing antibodies. Antibodies. Anti. Antibodies are against something. So look, let's say there's some kind of immune battle going on, something enters the body. For instance, let's take something recent. Coronavirus. The coronavirus enters the body, and in my body, it slowly starts to get fought off. There's a battle going on. And at the same time, in the place where this fight with the virus is happening, where the viruses are being attacked and our body is being cleared as a result of this battle, at the site of the damage, special carrier cells arrive at that spot. The carrier cells take an imprint of the antigens of this specific coronavirus. Then, the carrier cells bring this imprint to the bone marrow, to the B lymphocytes, essentially delivering a copy of the antigen of the enemy that is currently attacking the body. And in response to this imprint, the anti-B lymphocytes start producing a huge amount, billions, trillions of these antibodies. These are proteins that have this imprint in their structure. These antibodies enter the bloodstream, and instantly, wherever they go in the blood, if they encounter this antigen, they destroy it en masse. There might not be enough lymphocyte or leukocyte cells to fight bacteria or viruses. But there are enough antibodies. And the main immune battle in our body is not cellular, but humoral immunity. These antibodies, which circulate throughout our entire body, inactivate antigens. They attach to the antigen, and then a complement protein comes over, which breaks it all down and destroys it. It is precisely thanks to antibodies that all these bacteria, viruses, fungi, microorganisms, everything foreign that attacks us, gets destroyed. And I repeat, there are a lot of bacteria, not that many leukocyte cells, but you can produce a huge number of antibodies. And the main immune defense is actually the humoral immunity, which is provided by B lymphocytes producing antibodies. And then these antibodies, well, they enter the bloodstream and protect us from everything foreign. But how can you protect yourself in this way? How can immunity be created? The thing is, there are two more ways to create immunity, active and passive. Active immunity comes from vaccinations, while passive immunity is created by administering serum. And with these two types of artificial immunity, you can create protection against specific pathogens. Of course, natural immunity develops in a person after they have recovered from an illness. For example, if someone has had a disease, like measles. After recovering from the illness, their immunity is now trained. B lymphocytes are able to quickly and efficiently produce antibodies. The antibodies are already circulating in the body, so the person won't get measles a second time. They already have antibodies, which is natural immunity. But artificial immunity is about preventing illness in the first place. In this case, a person receives certain substances called vaccines, a specially prepared medical product that contains a specific form of antigens, those very markers found on the pathogen. Sometimes these markers are just floating in a solution, and in that case, they're simply antigens. Sometimes they're attached to something, some kind of carrier, and sometimes they're even on the pathogens themselves. In that case, the pathogen can actually cause illness in a person, but usually it's a mild form. Or the pathogen might even be dead. For example, like with tuberculosis, when the Calmette-Guerin bacillus, BCG, is actually the tuberculosis bacillus, but this tuberculosis bacillus basically doesn't cause disease in people anymore. It's been weakened so much that this bacillus, this Mycobacterium tuberculosis, is so attenuated that it can't cause illness. But it still acts as an antigen carrier, and when it's introduced into the human body, the body produces antibodies in response to the antigen, immunity develops, and the person's immune system becomes prepared to fight off tuberculosis bacteria in the future. So once a person is vaccinated, they have immune protection, and then they won't get sick with the disease. That's how vaccination works. That's the principle behind vaccinations. A person is given the antigens of a disease in advance, the agents that cause the illness. The immune system builds up protection, producing these antibodies. And when antibodies are present in the blood, it shows that the person is protected against a specific disease. This is an active, artificial, but still active, immunity that develops in a person through vaccinations. And then there's passive immunity. Passive immunity is when, well, you see, there are situations where it's difficult, really difficult, to ensure that a person has already developed immunity. Sometimes there are cases when you need it right now, immediately. When you need it right now, without delay. A dog bit a man. That dog might be rabid. It's possible. And sometimes the dog is later killed, an autopsy is performed, they examine the brain, and they find special inclusions in the nerve cells that show the dog really did have rabies. And now the disease, which is transmitted through saliva, will affect the person, and rabies means death, it's fatal. Someday, we'll go over all infectious diseases together. I'll explain to you why rabies means death, but it is fatal. There's just one chance. Rabies has a certain incubation period before it develops. So if a rabid dog bites someone now, that person will get rabies and die. How can we save him? There's no time to develop immunity to this disease. But that's exactly when this passive form of immunity comes to the rescue. There are already developed antibodies that are injected directly into the person's bloodstream. They don't wait for the body to produce them naturally. They don't wait for the person's own antibodies to appear. Instead, artificially made antibodies against the virus are injected into the person's body. And these antibodies won't be able to stay in the bloodstream for long. They'll only circulate for a limited amount of time. But these antibodies will already be working to eliminate the disease. That is, all viruses will be activated, and then the person will not get sick. Vaccines create artificial immunity. And these various serums are used against specific types of snake bites, against rabies, and against other diseases or medical conditions where immediate help is urgently needed to effectively neutralize or detoxify, to inactivate the dangerous pathogen that has entered the body. Right away, without waiting for immunity to develop, you give the body a chance to fight the disease with the help of antibodies. This is what's called passive immunity. Yes, it doesn't last long, but it doesn't need to. It's needed so that, right now, it can help the human body deal with the illness. There are serums like this for various diseases as well. Introducing them helps to temporarily saturate the body with antibodies against the disease-causing agent, so that this agent won't cause illness in the body at all. This is how serum immunity is formed. Immunity can show itself in different ways. Many people confuse the body's resistance with immunity. Resistance means resilience. It's when a person is hardened, used to it, they don't catch a cold in the frost, they don't get sick in cold conditions. It's when someone has a natural defense, natural resilience. This isn't immunity, although it can also be considered a part of immunity, like having clear mucous membranes or healthy skin. Well, this isn't really immunity anymore. It's more about resistance, the body's resilience not just to one specific illness, but to all diseases and illnesses. That's also an important factor. Develop this resilience and stability in your body by leading a healthy lifestyle and maintaining your health, so that you're not just protected from a specific disease, but so you can stay healthy overall. So today, I shared some special and interesting information about immunity just for you. Friends, let me know in the comments what other topics you'd like to hear about. Based on your questions, I'll make more videos for you, answering your questions and sharing other interesting things related to our medicine and our bodies in general. Thank you for your attention, friends. See you next time with Dr. Golod. Goodbye.